In Quentin Tarantino's Second World War alternate history film Inglourious Basterds, there's a famous scene in a tavern that features a bunch of soldiers playing a game where they have to guess who they are through a series of yes or no questions. This soldier has to figure out that he's King Kong and asks a bunch of questions that seem to be bringing him closer to that revelation. But this is what he deduces.
Bin ich die Geschichte des in Amerika?
Nein.
Also dann muss ich King Kong sein.
This line of dialogue wasn't merely a fun misdirection from Tarantino either, because he genuinely believes this reading of the original King Kong film.
I mean, of course King Kong is a metaphor for the slave trade. I'm not saying the makers of King Kong meant it to be that way, but that's the movie that they made, whether they meant to make it or not.
And this is so interesting to me because it makes me think, once a work is out there in the world, does it really matter what the creator's intention was? In his 1967 essay, The Death of the Author, French critic Roland Barthes argued that the author of a work's intentions and background shouldn't influence how we interpret a piece of work. Instead, the meaning of a text, or film, painting, or lyrics is created by you, the audience. And when it comes to the creator, well, once the work is out there in the world, it belongs to the audience now.
Look at me. Sure. I'm the captain now.
But why does this concept matter anyway? I mean, we see it everywhere in modern media. It's why fan theories go viral, why adaptations can completely reimagine stories and anger a bunch of fandoms, and why people are debating if you can still listen to Graduation. It's why two people can watch the same movie and walk away with totally different interpretations. Let's take Blade Runner for example, a movie about an ex-police officer named Rick Deckard, who has to hunt down a group of rogue androids called replicants. Now skip to this timestamp if you want to avoid a major spoiler, but there are several hints in the movie that Deckard might be a replicant himself. The director of the movie, Ridley Scott, has explicitly stated in interviews that he is. But even so, fans and critics alike have written think pieces to say that he's wrong, and that Deckard being a replicant actively undermines the themes of the film. Even Deckard's actor, Harrison Ford, famously clashed with Scott over this issue, believing his character to be a human as well. But really, the idea of the answer being ambiguous is key, and a director who loves using ambiguity to enhance his storytelling is none other than Christopher Nolan, with the ending of his blockbuster film Inception still sparking debate to this day. Now don't worry, I won't spoil that one. But he states that while he has a certain idea about what the definitive answer could be, the point is that it's meant to be ambiguous. And this is one of the reasons why he doesn't comment on fan theories.
I made the mistake many years ago, and luckily it was before the prevalence of social media and all the rest. I went to the Venice Film Festival and showed Memento with the first ever audience who saw it. And in the press conference afterwards, they asked me about my interpretation of the ending. And I said, well, the important thing is it's ambiguous, it's unknowable, but yeah, what I think is blah, blah, blah. And my brother Jonah took me aside after that and said, you can never do that again. I said, but I said it's ambiguous. He said, no one listened to that. They want an answer. So if you're looking for ambiguity, if you're looking for open possibilities, you have to keep your mouth shut.
Then there's the adaptation, bringing a story from one medium to another. And while some people have tried to make faithful adaptations that change as few details as possible, like Zack Snyder's frame-for-frame adaptation of Alan Moore's Watchmen comic book, which Alan hated, by the way, sometimes the director of an adaptation changes significant details, like Stanley Kubrick's acclaimed adaptation of The Shining, which author Stephen King famously hated, but has since softened towards. King's disagreement with Kubrick's adaptation can be seen in how both of them decided to handle the treatment of the lead character, Jack Torrance. For those of you who are unfamiliar, The Shining is a story about a recovering alcoholic and aspiring writer who takes a job as the off-season winter caretaker for a haunted hotel. He doesn't know it's haunted though. His family accompanies him on the job, and his son Danny has an ability called The Shining, which allows him to see the hotel's darker true nature. Okay, stay with me now. After a winter storm leaves the family snowbound, the supernatural forces inside the hotel turn Jack insane and against his own family. The story was heavily influenced by King's own personal experiences with alcoholism and his visit to the Stanley Hotel.
So I saw these all as warm characters that were being threatened by forces from without, from ghosts, from real supernatural creatures. And the film is extremely cold. Stanley Kubrick saw The Haunting as coming from Jack Torrance, from the Jack Nicholson character, whereas I always saw it from outside. So we had a fundamental difference of opinion about it. I always thought that the real difference between my take on it and Stanley Kubrick's take on it was this. In my novel, the hotel burns. In Kubrick's movie, the hotel freezes. It's a difference between warmth and cold.
Then there are even times when the author of a work is involved in the adaptation and fixes mistakes they made in their own source material, like with Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead. He's one of the writers and executive producers on the show, and while there are many characters like Daryl who were made specifically for the show, spoiler alert, in the comics, to really get across how much of a threat he was, the villain, the governor, cuts off the main character Rick's hand, and Kirkman has since said that he regretted this choice. And luckily with the show, he was able to give the story another go. Another Kubrick adaptation, A Clockwork Orange, was so hated by the author of the novel it was based on that he stated that he wished he had never written it, claiming that the film made it easy for readers of the book to misunderstand what it was about, and the misunderstanding will pursue me till I die. I should have not written the book because of this danger of misinterpretation. And misinterpretation is a common reason authors seem to be hesitant about adaptations of their work. In fact, the author of Fight Club, Chuck Palahniuk, hated how the Tyler Durden character was embraced so much after the movie's release that he wrote a sequel just to make it clear he was supposed to be the villain, even featuring himself and fans of the film as characters in the graphic novel. I go into this in depth in my video When You Hate the Audience, but basically Chuck's Fight Club 2 and 3 is about as drastic a response to the death of the author gets. Oh, and let's not forget memes. Scenes from Breaking Bad and The Office get repurposed all the time and is a perfect example of this concept. There's also the whole debate about separating the art from the artist, with people trying to reconcile whether it's possible to continue to enjoy the art of a creator who's reprehensible in some way.
This is completely unreviewable trash. There are some people who will say, Anthony, you're being unfair here. Separate the art from the artist. Come on now. You can't separate this crap from the music because it's in the music. Look at the lyrics. I think this comment here pretty much sums things up. We don't care as long as the album is good. His personality and what he says doesn't matter to me. I only care about the music.
And this kind of discussion is very controversial and nuanced. There are no right or wrong answers. And even with this review, many people criticize music reviewer Anthony Fantano for refusing to review Kanye West's Vultures 1 record, despite the fact that he's reviewed other controversial artists' work. In 2022, the UK's Channel 4 faced controversy for their show Jimmy Carr Destroys Art, where the premise involved comedian Jimmy Carr having the in-studio audience vote on what to do with art pieces by contentious people, like that one dictator. The show was criticized by many and was accused of trivializing serious issues by essentially being a form of shock value. Then lastly, this fanfiction, which often reimagines characters and stories from popular works, disregarding the original author's vision, like that one book series, 50 Shades of Grey, which started off as Twilight fanfiction and was written on a BlackBerry. You can't make this up. Or that book series After, which had its start as a kind of One Direction fanfiction, with the main character, Hardin Scott, being modeled after Harry Styles. It spawned 5 movies and many, many books.
So I wonder if after the book was so successful online and then it got published, you got to meet Harry Styles and ask him what does he think about that?
No, I don't think not that I don't want to meet Harry Styles, but now it's like the story kind of evolved from that. So I feel like it would be weird for me to be like, hey, Harry, you want to meet me? I wrote 7 books about you.
In the thick of the information age, with user-generated content, comment sections, and the democratization of tools to create and exhibit it, art becomes more of a discussion than a lecture. What do you think?